fans. This is the Student Section Summer League podcast. I'm your host, Dom Taylor, along with my co-hosts Cooper Huskey and Dylan Morgan. We are so excited to be bringing you our inaugural episode of the Summer League podcast. Guys, how are we doing today?
Doing great, man.
Feeling
Glad
great.
to be here.
Absolutely.
Yeah, doing well. Can't wait to get started.
Absolutely. And, this is a little bit about us, right? So we used to be, I guess not used to be, we are still students at the University of Alabama. It feels like we used to be because we've been gone for so long due to COVID. People all over the country have been suffering from a lack of things to do, it seems, in terms of just, losing jobs, losing opportunities. But we're going to rebound, of course, and we take matters into our own hands, right? And that's a little bit about what we're doing with this podcast. So this is an extension, if you will, of the Student Section, a radio show that we had at the University of Alabama on WVUA FM 90.7, the Capstone. And we're continuing it this summer. It's a little bit of an extension. And then once it gets time to August, we're going to be bringing you that great content back on the radio station at WVUA FM. But today, we're going to be getting into a few different topics. So first off, sports are back finally, guys. I don't know if that just excites you, that thrill for me. There's been a piece of me that's been missing for about 3 months now, and I'm so excited to see it finally return. What about you guys?
I'm excited, man. We're finally getting a little sliver of hope. We're starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel. It's time to go. It's time to get back to sports, man.
Yeah, the world is getting back to normal. When sports picks up, it finally feels like we're recovering and healing from this really long pandemic quarantine.
Without a doubt. And without further ado, we're going to be getting into our first topic, and that is the NBA return. So the NBA, quicker than most leagues out there, has actually gotten their stuff together. They are going to be returning. The NBA Board of Governors has decided on a return schedule, and that's going to be as follows. The return is going to be 22 teams, and 13 from the West, 9 from the East. They're going to be invited to Orlando. They're going to play at the Disney World, Wide World of Sports facilities there. Yep. There's going to be 8 playing games between the teams as kind of a regular season cap. It's going to determine seeding, especially for that 8th seed spot. There's going to be some teams that are kind of on the bubble that people didn't think necessarily were going to get into the playoff. So that's going to be huge for some of those teams that may have had kind of more of an uphill battle had the season still been going on during the regular season. Now, July 30th is the target startup date as of right now, and there's going to be some different protocol in terms of safety. There's going to be options for players to bow out. They won't receive pay, but if they want to prioritize safety, they can still do that. There's also going to be about a 10-day period where they cannot leave the facilities. That includes personnel that aren't players. They're going to need to kind of be in a bubble environment, to be quarantined, and make sure nobody is bringing COVID into the facilities and transmitting it to people. Guys, what do you think about this? I mean, it's excited to see the NBA return, but there's going to be a lot of kind of hoops to jump through. Give me your takes on what you first thought when you heard this news.
Obviously, I think the initial reaction for everybody is just excitement, because everyone just wants sports back. But now when we're seeing kind of like all of the things that we're going to have to do and all of the rules that the players are going to abide by, and now we have players talking about, I don't want to play. Now we're talking about significant players. You said that Paul George was one of those players, one of the stars in the league right now. A guy like him bowing out, what's to say, Steph Curry isn't next. Giannis isn't next. Those guys that are going to be competing for championships are just going to stay at home and sit on the couch. It's kind of like a lockout league in a way.
It is like a lockout league, but here's my response to that. We've all been living in a bubble these past 3 months. So if there is an opportunity for just even a sliver of normalcy to come back, and that being the NBA playoffs, get over yourselves is my message to the players. Let's get back. Let's do this quarantine. It'll only be 3 months, even if you make it to the NBA Finals. For most of you, it'll be like a month, maybe a couple of weeks. You'll lose your games and you'll go home, but you'll provide some entertainment and normalcy back to us as fans, back to America. And so, yeah, it's okay to sacrifice 3 months in a bubble for the NBA playoffs to be back, in my opinion.
And I agree with most of those sentiments, and I think that it's actually great that these players are deciding that they're going to almost put some of their safety and some of their health over, vice versa. They're going to put an end to the NBA season, a final champion, a playoff, the good of the sport over maybe some of their health. Now, it's not to say that the NBA is not going to prioritize their health. Obviously, they're going to make sure that everybody can be as safe and healthy as possible. But it's good that they aren't living in fear and that they are going to kind of push forward with this in this kind of uncharted territory. Make sure that an NBA season happens and that they crown a championship at the end. I'm sure that Bucks and Lakers fans are going to be very excited that they didn't get a championship cheated away from them, as they are most likely the best teams in the league. I have a feeling that because of quarantine, the playing levels might actually be balanced out a little bit. Because everybody's kind of been waiting around for 3 months. There's not as much hardcore training and conditioning that's been going on. So it's going to be interesting to see. I could see a lot of teams on the bubble rise up that you didn't expect. I could see a lot of upsets. I think that is very much in the realm of possibility. This could be a very interesting NBA playoff return. Speaking of bubbles that we've been living in, there are some teams that are on the bubble, both East and the West. Some of those teams include the Grizzlies, the Spurs, the Pelicans, the Trailblazers, the Suns, the Wizards, and, of course, my Sacramento Kings, who barely ever accomplish anything of note, self-admittedly. However, we have another opportunity. We're only 4 games behind, potentially getting into that 8th seed. So talk to me a little bit about some of these teams, guys. We've got some really, some gritty teams that could make it. Ja Morant and the Grizzlies, one of the first to come to mind. Kings beat that team. The Trailblazers, for sure. Of course, if Damian Lillard can pull some magic, talk to me. What are you seeing with these bubble teams?
I think in the West, it's obviously just a race for 8th place. I don't think you're going to get a whole lot of movement from 7-1 in there at all. And then I think it's going to be a race just between the Grizzlies and the Pelicans. Those teams are stacked with a lot of hot young talent, and they were pretty hot at the end of the season already. And even with the quarantine, I think that's still going to carry over because you still have that confidence in your game when you look back for 3 months and you're like, wow, I was killing it, dropping 30 points a game. Now I just got 3 months rest. Let's go do this thing now. You know what I'm saying? So I think that for sure. And then I think the East is just 1 through 8 is going to stay the exact same. I don't think there's going to be any movement whatsoever. There might be some movement in the very middle of that because 4th through 6th place is decided by 2 games. So that might change around. But other than that, I see pretty much the 16 teams from the entire place just going on to the rest.
Now, when I look at this playoff format, and I see 13 teams from the West competing for 8 spots, to me, that just says they're looking for a way to get Zion into the playoffs. And that'll be exciting. Don't get me wrong. I'd be happy to see Zion there, but it just looks like it's a way to get him there. And it's now his time to prove that he can get there. The Pelicans over those couple games humps, get that 8th spot, and then see if they can do something against the Lakers or when that playoff time comes. Then looking in the East, the Magic, they have a couple games on the Wizards. I kind of feel for them. And I feel for the 8th place Grizzlies too. They spent a season getting that 8th spot, and now it's going to be decided on a couple of games.
It's true.
So I kind of feel for those 8C teams. They fought for that position, but it'll be exciting to see. I really do think the Magic, though, they'll pull it out and get that 8th spot.
Yeah, me and you, Coop, are kind of sharing that bias of hoping that our teams pick up those last spots. I know, Dylan, you're not really in that same position as we can see.
8 games ahead of 8th place, baby.
Yeah. You guys are in you're in no danger, especially with the personnel you got on that team. The Mavs.
I hope we can jump to about 4 because 5, 6, and 7 all have 40 wins right now. So we could jump up to like 4 so we don't have to play like the Clippers first round.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That'd be a solid matchup, but that would be tough.
It would be
So,
very tough.
it'd be great.
We'd
It'd be a
probably
great game.
lose.
It'd be a great,
Probably lose in like 5 games, to be honest.
it'd be an amazing series, but I know you definitely don't want to. You want to take the easy way out. I get it.
Of course, as always.
Yeah.
The least possible chance of you guys getting knocked out. But no, it's great to see a return to the NBA. Very excited to see that. Now, we're actually going to jump into our second topic. There is a different league that, not like the NBA.
No.
They have not been able to get their stuff together. They're actually doing the exact opposite. They are bickering and continue to bicker and continue to lose time to the point where a return to the league is looking almost unlikely, or that they, they're the commissioner of the MLB, the league we're talking about, Manfred, right? He believes that baseball is coming back. He believes that there's no chance that there's not going to have they're not going to have baseball this year. Rob Manfred, I want to believe him, but I also know that as a commissioner, he's going to say that to appease anybody. The MLB is having drama issues, guys. It is ridiculous. The MLB and the MLBPA, the Players Association, are going back and forth on agreements as to how many games they're going to have for the remainder of the season, on salary cuts, on the format of the playoff. There are a couple things they agree on in terms of safety aspects. They want to have larger rosters too, to get some other guys in there. But it's like, I mean, if you want this league to play, this league is already losing so much money every year.
Mm-hmm.
You can't have your full salary given the circumstances.
Nope.
There's going to be no fans. So, or if there is, they're going to be very limited fans, which is, already, I mean, I guess if you're a Marlins fan, you're kind of used to that. But you're already –
Or the Rays.
Or the Rays, right?
I was just about to say thank you for saying the Marlins, the Rays, but
yeah,
whatever.
I'm sorry, I had to throw that little cut in there, but
that's
but
okay.
It's true. Yeah,
that's okay. I have a whole summer.
Right.
I have a whole summer to get back.
Yes, it's the summer league, man. We're we can throw out we're gonna experimental rules. Throw out some punches, right?
Of
course.
It's a really interesting kind of setup here because there's a lack of a setup. There is no plan in place. They just want to bicker back and forth. The MLB players want to be prima donnas. I get it. You don't want to be crushed by the MLB. It's like the government. You don't want to be the don't tread on me people. Like you don't want to be crushed by the government, right? I get that. But you want to play a sport, right? You want to have a job. And there's a chance that might not happen.
Yes.
What are your guys' reactions to this? This is crazy. Some of these players, I mean, it's kind of outlandish that they won't be a little less selfish for the sake of the sport.
Yeah, and it's really surprising coming from the sport that has the least amount of contact within all of the major sports in the United States. And it's not like, okay, I understand that baseball salaries range very widely. You got your Bryce Harpers that make $300 million, but then you got some guys who are barely making $90K a year or so, and they don't want their stuff cut in half for the year. But at the end of the day, if you truly love this game and you respect the game as much as you say you do, then why don't you want to go out there and compete? And if a regular person is not going into their job every day, they're not making money. So if you don't go into your job every day, why should you still get paid to not do your job?
Yeah, that's the whole thing. Everyone is taking a pay cut this year. It's just the nature of 2020. Whether you're working at McDonald's, working at a Fortune 500 company, or whether you're working for the MLB, you're taking a pay cut. And so players just kind of have to wrap their mind around that and just get going and get ready to play, or else you're not going to play and you're not going to get paid. That's the nature of this holdout keeps happening. What you're holding out for will never come to you. And
what's curious to me about that too is I think it's most of the highest paid players that they're considering doing pay cuts. I don't even think it is the lower guys. They're not going to say we're cutting half of your, 90,000 third string pitcher salary. I mean, I'm sure they don't make that much, and it's probably still a ridiculous number for being third string, but it's like, it's not even, I guess, third string. That's besides the point. The highest paid players are getting cut. You don't need $300 million.
No. No.
Nobody
No.
needs that.
No.
So
It's
if you take
players
150
like Blake Snell and Bryce Harper.
right, and,
Who,
it's
like,
and you're
why
gonna
It's
are
Blake
you-
Snell who goes on a Twitch stream and says, "I'm not taking a pay cut." Like, man, you just won a video game tournament for the league a
exactly.
week before that. That's
Yes.
what you're doing right now. You're
Mhm.
playing MLB The Show on ESPN, and it's getting views because that's the only sport on. Put your ego in check. Take that pay cut so you can play some real baseball.
And I really don't – I don't really like when they say they're risking their lives either. Every time they step out on the diamond, you're risking your life.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know.
it is.
Yeah.
You got football and basketball and the NHL and all these sports where it requires hitting each other and
Yes.
bumping into each other and
Yes.
physical contact and sweat and all this stuff. And you are spread out by like hundreds of feet if you're in the outfield.
You
if you're-
could definitely
it's like-
you could definitely have your 6-foot rule. You could practice good quarantine values while playing baseball.
Yep.
Exactly. It's ridiculous. I really, this is incredible how they've handled this. I mean, it's pretty showing, and it's a bad look for the MLB and the players involved with it. It really is, in a league that is already struggling with attendance and people wanting to watch the games. I mean, I personally don't want to watch a regular season matchup that's 4 hours long on a Monday night of two teams that are going to sit at the bottom of the rankings or the bottom of the standings and not do anything. I don't want to watch that. I do want to watch an NBA game. I do want to watch a random NFL game with the worst players, but it's like, they got to change up their format. I think less games in a season. I do like that. I think the MLB MLBPA should agree with that and go along with it. I mean, there's going to be some compromises that are going to have to go with. And it's just ridiculous. I'm not happy with it. It sounds like you guys aren't happy with it either. But that's besides the point. Unfortunately, we have another topic that I think we're all going to be very unhappy with as University of Alabama students. Our third topic, Alabama football players specifically, have contracted COVID-19.
Yep.
But the strange thing is that's about all we know and have heard for the last week. We know about 5 players got it.
Mm-hmm.
There was a press release from the university. They said that they're going to, they've quarantined those student athletes, those football players. We don't exactly know who they are now, but that's about it. I mean, they haven't released anything else that kind of goes along with, okay, so like, are they cleared yet? What are they in the hospital? Are they? I mean, I get it. There are NCAA bylaws that protect student athletes' health information, but we really don't know anything else. And I think that it's a lot more than just an NCAA health bylaw. It has to do with how bad could this affect the CFB startup. I mean, if there are more than, I think it's 10 schools now, and the number's kind of growing, of student athletes that have come back to their athletic departments with COVID-19. They've spread it to a few other student athletes. Auburn is one of them, so we're not in it alone. I think it's Michigan has it. I've heard Iowa State has some players that have contracted it, and they're spreading it. The SEC was the first conference to kind of come back and start up practices and little training camps, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
There's a possibility that this could kind of push this back if too many schools get it and now they're scared of it contracting to other sports or to other people in the athletic department or to students. That could even affect us going back in the fall. That's a long shot. However, guys, it's pretty scary to hear that some Bama athletes have gotten it.
And back to your point, we're probably never going to get information on that, so as to not scare and push back the start of college football season. I bet you this will be all we hear of it. Probably in 2 weeks we'll get another press release. The 5 players have it's come and gone. They're healthy again and they're back to practicing, and that's the last we'll ever hear of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because they don't want to delay the start of college football. And I get it, and I kind of support it. I don't want to know. If all it's going to do is just postpone it, or just take care of it in the back room, they'll let me know, and let's just get on to football season in August.
Yeah, I think as long as it's contained, obviously know there's only 5, so the number caps at that right there. They're in quarantine already, and obviously no one has had really bad symptoms or anything, or else we would have gotten some sort of update, especially if someone was getting like near death or some sort of thing like that. So is it worrying a little bit? Because in the back of your mind, you're like, oh my gosh, that's my campus. That's, and that goes for many schools now with players happening all over the country. But I'm with Coop on this one, and I'm sure, Dom, you support this as well, that, as long as they take care of it and it's contained and there's no problems afterwards, I don't care who it is. I don't care what they were feeling. Like, as long as it's taken care of and we can get back to normalcy at some point and it doesn't affect the general student body or employees, staff, and so on and so forth, I think it's just fine.
I want to agree with that. I also want to say that, I want to think that that perfect world would happen where it would just be this incident and then, nothing else would happen after that, and we wouldn't have any incidents across the country. But the thing about this virus is it comes and goes. People can get it again. I mean, there are people who have recovered from it and have gotten it again. There's the potential that somebody was asymptomatic. I know what they did say in the report, that one person was asymptomatic, and that was probably the person that spread it to the other athletes who didn't know he had it. Mm-hmm. And then there's the possibility that he spreads it to people like his family. I mean, there's probably going to be protocols in place now where they are probably going to quarantine the athletes. They're going to say you can't go visit it's going to suck, but you can't go visit your family. You're going to have to stay here in your dorm in the athletic departments and just kind of quarantine yourself. You're going to be in your own little bubble, right? Except for the football team, or all the players. They'll be able to, of course, consort with each other. But it's just like, I want to say that if something else happens and we get a couple more cases kind of sprinkled throughout the next month, it's going to put a huge dent and possibly a postponement to this college football return plan. Now, there's a 6-week camp system that the NCAA has been talking about. College footballs, it's going to be kind of like NFL OTAs in a sense. That's what it's been compared to. Players will be able to, they're going to be able to come back. They're not going to be able to have pads on. That's the thing. Unlike the NFL, these guys won't be wearing pads during this. It's going to be like walkthroughs. So, even then there's the concern of like, if nobody gets it, if nobody contracts COVID-19 and nobody spreads it, are they even going to be ready for contact?
Yeah.
I mean,
now we're worried about injuries on the field.
Exactly. Yeah. It's going to be less of a health problem in terms of the virus and more of a health problem in terms of could dangerous tackling methods be on the rise? You see more guys getting injured, more brain injuries this season, more just regular injuries all around. What do you guys think about that? That was one of the first things that I thought when I heard they weren't wearing pads.
Yeah, I could see an increase in injury. Maybe like you see a rise in targeting and spearing, those types of tackles, those will probably go on the rise. But they're playing to return to football, and that's what's great about it. So do whatever you need to do. If we see regress in play this year, so be it. It will just be part of the story of 2020. Everything took a decline that year. College football skills went down that year. And, it might even the playing field. Who knows? You might see 4 new teams in the playoff. I know as Alabama fans, God forbid that we're not in the playoffs again this year, but who knows? You might see 4 new teams, which will maybe increase viewership for college football on ESPN.
Yeah,
I can see that. So. I can see that, but I would hope that, especially for D1, that their strength and conditioning is good enough to where their bodies are prepared for, all the things they're about to put their bodies through when it comes to that full contact once we hit late August, early September. So you would hope that the strength and conditioning coaches are being very diligent, making sure everything is properly worked out and done right so that they can strengthen those muscles and such. But Yeah, it is something to worry about, especially with leg injuries, and because your legs are not strong enough from being able to do those contact drills every day. And then we do, as you said, have the risk for brain injuries, for more concussions with faulty tackling methods. So it's definitely something to watch. And I think you'll see that the teams that prevail through this with relatively no problems, their program from top to bottom is absolutely A plus. I think you would say if these guys can't go through contact all off season long, but then come out here on Saturdays and still play at that high of a level.
And I got to think that the athletic trainers, and as well as college football teams and schools in general, conferences and the NCAA, they're gonna know if the players aren't ready. They're not going to just throw them out there and say like, well, you had 6 weeks of non-contact, no pads training of walkthroughs. Yep. You know the plays. You could play 7-on-7 just fine. But now go hit each other. They're not going to do that. They're going to know whether or not those players are ready to go out there and compete at a level that's as high as NCAA Division I football. So I have to think that because it's such a huge. The industry side gets into it. It's money too. There's so much money that's made from college football revenue. It spurs some of the athletic programs in a lot of schools. It's going to happen. I think fans will still come and see it, even if it's, modified. If there's been talk of like less games that happen. They kind of cut it down to like just conference games, or, I don't know. They want to have games before November so that it doesn't become cold, so the virus doesn't have a time to incubate. I don't know. I know that whatever's going to happen, they're going to modify it, and it's going to work to the best.
If you think about this, if we just do conference games, for us Alabama fans, week 1 is Georgia. Would
Fantastic.
You be ready for that? That'd be
That's a good season opener.
Good game. Yeah,
I'm happy for it. But the playing field would be pretty even. I mean,
it would be pretty
probably
even.
Just the fact that they're playing a Bryant Denny, because everybody's just so fresh and green, But I think there will be college football. I think that's the main point that we're trying to make. I know you guys probably agree with that. A few other notes as far as the Crimson Tide. We've had 2 players transfer, Tyrell Shavers and Shadarius Townsend. They have transferred out. Those are 2 wide receivers. Tyrell Shavers went to Mississippi State, which is that's a little bit of a stab in the back. Yeah, they're getting a big player. I mean, he's like 6'6". He runs like a 3.34. I mean, he is a target. He didn't break our depth chart, which is unfortunate. He might have had a lot of reps this year. I don't know. He was buried under some really, really good talent, but I wish him all the best, even if it is, an SEC West rival. It is what it is. He's gone. The players are, however, very excited. Speaking of strength and conditioning and things of that matter, the new strength and conditioning coaches, Bolu and Rhea, these guys are the real deal from what players are saying. I mean, we've got there's players going on like Brian Robinson. He tweeted something the other day about one of the first workouts that they did. He was juiced. He was amped. I mean, when you have a player tweeting after a strength and conditioning workout, it's like, wow. Yeah. He was saying that the Bama factor was back, and that these players are excited that these coaches want to restore that like it factor that comes with Alabama football, and that's really great to hear, because that's what I feel has been missing, and there's analysts and ESPN experts and all the talking heads in the media that say that if Nick Saban doesn't win it this year, then the threshold is gone, and Alabama has we've run our course, and we're not going to return to that championship level, which is
I think that's an unfair threshold, though.
I would say so too. Yep, I would say so too.
I will say this, though. If we don't win next year, I will be a little worried, because no graduating class to have Saban for all 4 years at Alabama hasn't won a national championship. So if you look back, whoever was a student in their freshman year was 2007. At least one of those years they've had a national championship. So, we're 0 for 2 right now. We got 2 more years left for the 3 of us. I think we can do it, but I will be a little nervous if we don't get it done this year.
I'll feel just fine as long as we make the national championship. Because then I know there's no leaks in the boat whatsoever. Just you obviously just can't win them all, and it's hard for Bama fans to say because we're so used to just winning it all the time. So I think we're just fine, and I think this might be the year though.
All right.
We can get past Georgia and we can beat LSU. The chances of us not making it to Atlanta are very small. And then I would think that if we beat Georgia, Florida would probably be the team that we would face.
Yeah.
And then if that's the case,
Probably.
that could be the toughest game of the year potentially if we were to play Florida. If we had already knocked off Georgia,
Be a good game though.
Absolutely, yeah. Florida's
It would be a
definitely on
good
the
game.
rise. Yep. And then at that point,
I like
if we
them
win
winning
SEC,
the East.
we would get into the national championship, and you win the SEC, you're in basically. That's how it's been for the last 15 years. Going back all the way to 2005. So, it's great for the SEC and great for Alabama. It's going to be an exciting season if it happens that way. Given
we'll
that
hope.
we hope.
We'll
Right?
hope.
Nothing is for certain, but it's a good sign so far. We're actually going to get on to our fifth and final segment. We wanted to talk a little bit about what's been going on culturally, and specifically culturally in sports. Obviously, it's been a very sensitive couple weeks in the United States with the killing of George Floyd, and obviously, the Black Lives Matter movement, and there's been a lot of outrage going on with that, and the killing of George Floyd. We're not going to get into the politics of it. I firmly believe that what happened was a sincere injustice. It was very wrong, and the other thing that I have been seeing is a lot of athletes, white and black, and really every race, have been kind of stepping out of their comfort zones and talking about this issue, right? And they've been discussing injustice, and they've been giving their takes. Some have been received a little differently than others. Obviously, people were very unhappy with what Drew Brees said. However, Drew Brees apologized because he didn't realize what he had said. He mentioned something about the American flag and disrespecting the flag when people would, kneel or desecrate it for the purposes of symbolism and the purposes of protest due to the nature of it. They believe that it stands for oppression. And then he apologized for that and realized, how it affected his fellow black teammates and the black fans of the Saints and black sports fans in general. You've been seeing leagues make strides in rescinding, what they've originally, their policies on protest, like the NFL. Roger Goodell said that he was wrong. The NFL was wrong about Kaepernick, that's a huge thing. I mean, when have you ever heard a entire league say that their stance on something was wrong? That's a huge step forward. The Team USA announced a repeal of the knee rule. Megan Rapinoe, when she kneeled for the national anthem, she was fined for that, and that's been repealed since. Guys, this is a very interesting and a very historical time, not only in the culture of the United States, but the culture of sports.
Yeah, it is. And what I love to see that, we've gotten glimpses of athletes making social change on this big of a scale, i.e. Muhammad Ali back in his day and Kaepernick a few years back when he did his protests. And now you're finally seeing a great uniformity amongst all the athletes in this country, especially right now. And you're even seeing it from athletes from other countries, like Messi and Ronaldo have weighed in on the topic. And so it's great to see everyone standing up for what they believe in, not just shutting up and dribbling. Like they're using their platform for such a great thing right now. And could it be argued, would we have liked to seen this a little earlier? Possibly, yes, but it's great that it's happening now, and it's great to see what the future can be if we keep fighting for this together.
I know locally here in Jacksonville, our players, the Jags, they've led some protests. Leonard Fournette had his protest either yesterday, which was Wednesday, or Tuesday, and that got a great following. A lot of people showed up and marched with them. Doug Marone, our head coach, was there. A lot of the players were there, so it's good to see that they are starting to, not starting to. I shouldn't say that. Players have always spoken out about what they believe in, starting with Cap, and then even back before him, as Dylan said, Muhammad Ali, Jackie Robinson was also one of the first players to stand up against racism. It's good to see that it's now being appreciated and accepted in America, because for too long you saw, please stop talking, just play. But it's good to see that it's now being accepted and, kind of almost expected, that fan bases are expecting their players to now start producing something and saying something, and their teams to start posting, solidarity memos on their social media platforms. So it's good that you're seeing that social change happen.
Without a doubt. I'm very, very happy to see that start happening. And, I'll be completely honest. I used to be one of those people. I used to be somebody that thought that athletes should just, I didn't go to sports to hear their opinions. I went to news sources. I went to, YouTube commentators and political commentators and all that stuff. I went to those people. I didn't want politics to leak into sports, but I realized that for something this important, for a modern day civil rights movement, these people who are the pinnacles of people look up to them. It is people, they have so much influence. They need to use that. And they should use that, and they should be fully accepted for using it to push forward just a great cause. Just an absolutely validated cause. The idea that the Black Lives Matter, and that there was a problem in our law institution and how we handle just the civil rights movement of today. And it's very good to see. It is very, very I'm glad that my mind was changed. That's all I can say. I keep saying the word interesting in this podcast. I think that I've said it multiple times, and I realize it. It's because this time is just it really is an interesting time. And this is just such uncharted territory, guys. And we're doing a podcast from home. Did we think that we would be doing a podcast from home in June? No. We had things, internships and opportunities and things that we had planned that were canceled. Not that we don't love what we're doing right now. I would have no other choice, no other love than what I'm doing right now. But it is an interesting time. And I want to thank you all for listening to the first episode of the Summer League podcast. We're going to be coming out with new episodes every Monday and Thursday for the next couple months until we get back on WVUA FM 90.7 Capstone on the University of Alabama campus. But for now, we're going to be on YouTube and SoundCloud. We just want to thank you so much for listening, and have a great rest of your day.